Hey, what is up? And welcome to another episode of the Trep Tech Podcast. I am here with the extensive, the marvelous, the might as well be chiseled from gold after she put together the coolest podcast success kit I've ever seen in my life, Airial Renault. I'm still blown away. It's been 2 weeks since we did our walkthrough of the podcast success kit. And I'm still sitting here with my mouth wide open, agape. I don't know what to say. I think it's incredible.
And I'm still cheesing about it. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I'm floored. Like, this the coolest thing. So welcome back to your podcast, lady.
Woo woo.
So yeah, you had mentioned like we're kind of on a theme here. We're kind of doing podcasting. And we did the, who should start one and what should you consider episode, which was a bit convoluted. And then you went and you threw together the podcast success kit, and we broke that down in the last episode, which made sense of all the madness, put everything into a beautiful step-by-step thing that people can follow. So if you're looking for that, if you want a step-by-step guide to getting your podcast up and running and making it incredible in the process, click the link in the description and get on that. But then this week, we're going to be talking kind of about the business of podcasting, the selling, the marketing, like that whole part of it, right?
Ooh, my favorite.
Yeah, some parts of it are my favorite, some parts not so much. So what part of it do you like? What part of the whole, like, you've got your show, now you have to get it out to people and try to convert that into listeners and sales and guests and something of value. What do you like about that? Because personally, like, there are parts I could do without.
Sharing your story, creating value for the listeners, having fun with it, the visibility, the diversity, the networking. So marketing is my big thing. Getting it out there, getting people to know about it.
Okay, yeah,
That's something I love. Yeah,
that makes sense. I'm more of the sales side of it. The
I
marketing
know.
scares the shit out of me. Yeah. I'm like, people, I don't want to talk to people, and they definitely don't want to talk to me. So we're not going there. And then you're over there like, I need you to vote on a picture. Everybody. Which, by the way, I do have to shout that out as one of the best marketing tactics I've seen in a while. Since we're on that, Airial decided to jump on and tag me on a post on Facebook just before Trep Tech went live, and said, like, we're trying to figure out our artwork. Should I use A, B, or C? And A and C were very similar. They were like eye-jarring green, like they were really like bright and out there, and they had different layouts, but they were a similar picture. And then B was completely different. And so everybody kind of weighed in, and then Airial went in and dug deeper. And so the comment section just blew up, which means algorithmically, this thing caught a lot of attention. And then
Yes.
right at the bottom, once we had like 200 comments ish, Airial just kind of went out and was like, "Oh, the show's up live," and all 200 people got push notified. So like that to me was a piece of marketing finesse that I could not have seen executed any better. Like, that was great.
Maybe I need to break down how I did that and put that as a bonus in the toolkit.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do show examples and everything, because that was slick. That was so slick.
That was
Um,
fun.
well, yeah, and you have a lot of fun with that stuff. Like, I'm more of like, I like to see my podcast, put it out there, generate some sort of like leads and business and lead to sales calls so I can get on them and sell. I don't really care if my listener pool is huge, or if a lot of people are talking about it. I care. Well, the part I care about is it bringing me customers on a consistent basis? And I find those two things are such different approaches that I wanted to kind of to talk to you about it today, because you kind of have to marry the two, don't you?
Yes, you do. Yeah. And that's what I love about talking with you, because we're so different in that area. I'm like, ooh, let's have fun. Yay. And you're like, okay, what's the ROI?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, sure.
What is the
Okay.
ROI of this fun?
What
By
is the
having
call
this
to
fun,
action? Other
by
than
having this fun, are we going to make any money? Because if not, I'd rather go have fun making money.
right. But it works together, it works hand in hand. So
Yeah,
I'm glad to get
absolutely.
your feedback on the parts that you love. And I'll talk about the parts that I love, which It's like in one episode you asked, "What do I help people with?" And I was like, "Tech."
Yeah.
And so if you ask me my marketing strategy,
Marketing.
fun.
Yeah. Marketing? I don't know. So I guess the one of the things I want to ask you is because I've seen two different schools of thought, and I know which camp I fall into. But what do you think should come first, the chicken or the egg? Do you think someone should start a podcast and then figure out their business, or do you think someone should have like at least an offer that they can facilitate and they know people will purchase and want, and then create a podcast to sell it? Which school of thought do you think would probably have more immediate success?
Ooh, you would ask me that.
Well, you did it the other way,
I'm
right? You did it the way I wouldn't, and that's why I'm asking.
well, okay, so with the Veteran Woman podcast, I just did it. I didn't have an offer. I had a mission and I had a message. And so that was the Veteran Woman podcast. And I was like, if I don't make any money, whatever, I just want to get our messages out there. With the Trip Tech podcast is more of, the call to actions, the marketing, talking about what we have to offer and everything. So I've done it both ways and I love both because with the Veteran Woman podcast, it's near and dear to my heart. I loved interviewing, networking with people, listening to other people's stories, getting our stories out because people would tell me stuff that they've never told anyone. We had some real in-depth conversations, but I also love the Trip Tech podcast because it keeps me on my toes. Like, okay, what's the ROI? How to be successful at podcasting, how to monetize the podcast and market it. It's just two totally different mind frames, but I love both of them. So I can't really choose.
So you would almost say that it really depends on what the goal of the show is. Like if you want to use it to expand a network and tell stories and create kind of visibility for a personal brand or visibility for yourself or visibility for like a cause or either your guests or what have you, you don't necessarily need to have an offer in place. But if your goal is money, you probably should.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of
Absolutely.
sense. That makes a lot of sense because if your goal is money, you don't necessarily need all the visibility either, do you?
No. And you know what? That actually goes back into the toolkit when it's talk about planning. That's something that you decide. Like if you're gonna have co-hosts like you and I, if you're gonna do solo, if you're gonna do guest interviews or a combination, and then like what is the purpose? What is the why of the podcast? Why are you doing it? That's a huge thing to know. So you have some kind of vision for it and know why it's important and how it fits into your business model or your brand or your message. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense because that was one thing where when Jessica Lorimer, who produces the Selling to Corporate podcast, and I teamed up and we did a podcasting course a few years back, one of the biggest things she said was lead with an offer. Mind you, the course was called Podcasting That Pays. So it was 100% like the money was the target.
Yeah.
And, I'd seen in your case that you had done things differently. So I definitely wanted to know like how you weigh in. And I think you're absolutely right is that, visibility matters when visibility is the goal and money matters when money is the goal. And you kind of have to figure that out in your planning stage. You have to figure it out before you start, I think. And I think that's where planning becomes really important. Like you do your due diligence because ultimately the decisions you make at step one are going to impact where you spend your time once it launches.
Mhm. Mhm. Definitely.
Okay. Okay. So that's good. That's good. Now, let's talk about marketing a podcast for a minute because I think people kind of don't necessarily understand. Like the second you talk about marketing, people automatically jump to like, oh, social media. But there are a lot of different ways that someone could promote a podcast. So, do you mind just running us through just some of the ways that people could get their name out about their show? Like whether they have an offer out on it or not. If the goal is visibility, what are some places that people can get that done that they may not ordinarily think about?
Social media.
Well, for starters, yeah, let's face it.
I mean, I'm very much social media driven. All of my clients have come from social media, in some form, whether from groups that are dedicated to certain software platforms. And you know why? Because it's the social part. And I'm a social, I wouldn't say social butterfly, but I'm a social butterfly. I love social, I love people. So social media is the first thing that pops in my mind, how to leverage social media, because you can connect with people around the world. But of course, you have email marketing, you have the SEO when you want to talk about actual marketing, content marketing, those different things. And let me just do a shameless drop right here about the digital strategy workshops that I'll be releasing soon. That's a secret you didn't know anything about. So we talk about like the different marketing channels. So that was great to put that in there.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Yeah, no worries. No worries. So one of the things that like I've noticed with you is that you don't favor any one strategy necessarily. You have the one you like. You like social media and it works for you, but you've been someone throughout your career, you've done emails and you've sent out email blasts to your show religiously every week. You know, you have done appearing on other podcasts to talk about your show. When The Veteran Woman was live, you were doing like serious media runs and campaigns to promote it. And you were showing up on a lot of different shows as a guest to talk about it as well. And then, of course, you've
And
got,
stages.
yeah, that's it too, right? You were doing conferences and things like that. For a while, I remember you showed up at like a tattoo shop and you collaborated with a tattoo shop or something
Yeah.
for a quick minute. Like you've done some really outside of the box things to market the Veteran Woman podcast, and money wasn't even the objective then. And that's why I think it's kind of cool to talk to you, because you have experience not just marketing a show that profits, you have experience also with a show that is completely heart centered and focus and cause driven. And it's kind of neat the ways you'll approach it, because I find when you market a profiting podcast, you tend to be a lot more serious about how you go about it. Whereas the Veteran Woman, you looked at it real different. You were like, what kind of ridiculous things can I do to get the name out?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fundraisers, we had a retreat. I mean, just everything on radio shows. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just amazing. So much fun and so impactful.
I think the craziest thing I've done in terms of advertising or promoting is I've put the Podcast Bay logo on demolition derby cars for 3 years and just had them smash the shit out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for no other reason than like seeing my logo on a car getting smashed to absolute shit made the 6-year-old in me so absolutely happy.
Cool.
Like, yeah, I was like, my inner child would geek out to know that like he did something and put his name out there, and now you're at this demolition derby and you're watching your logo get crunched to shit. And
Yeah, and that fits with, and that goes back to branding, like,
yeah.
that your logo, Podcast Bay logo fits that. I wouldn't put the Veteran Woman on a demolition car. You
No,
know what I'm saying?
I would put the Podcast Bay flag on the hood of a race car because it looks so badass. Like that's the thing. And
Yeah.
again, you know your marketing, like we're villains, you know, our brand archetype is very much villainous. We're not these clean cut, perfect little professionals on the Podcast Bay side. In my, in my day-to-day business, yeah, absolutely. Suit, tie, clean cut, respectable young professional. But then I put on my headphones and I'm an absolute rogue. I'm just like, all right, let's push creative boundaries and go absolutely nuts and make as much money as we can, take what we can, give nothing back. That it's kind of, we have a very like our marketing strategies have been very tongue in cheek, very whisper on the wind. When people market us, it's literally like you would talk about pirates, man. Like you say it in hushed tones. When
Yeah.
let's face it, how have you marketed us, Airial? You don't you don't see us post anywhere. We don't do any of that. It's literally just you hand our name to a friend.
Yes. And
That's it.
I love how we're different in that area
Yeah,
because, with me, we got, oh, and we're working on the Tech podcast website, of course, because,
of
that's
course.
how I am.
Of course.
And we got to have social media graphics, everything.
It's the
And
only
you
website I'll
just,
have because you're building it. It's the only website I'm ever going to have. So you might as
right.
well. You might as well.
And so, but with Podcast Bay, it was fully word of mouth. I
Yeah.
mean, and just I remember it used to drive me crazy because I'm like, nothing's automated. You're not doing this, you're not doing that. But I love the opposite end of the spectrum that we show because, like, when I work with clients, I'm like, these are the different strategies and tactics that are out there. Let's find the one that works for you or the combination of different ones that work for you. So
Yeah.
that's my big thing.
And see, for us, it's so different because when I look at, like for instance, Podcast Bay, the podcast, right? Rob hosts it. I hired him to generate leads for me. I didn't hire him to go out and make a big audience. I didn't hire him to go out and make a big stink. So we don't promote it as much as we should. He does. He tries. Poor guy. He's got no support from us. We suck. We hang him up to dry a lot. So Rob, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry, dude. We're working on it. We're working at doing better. The having house shows is really new to us, you know. We usually just produce for clients, but now we've got like what 4 or 5 shows that are like Podcast Bay originals. You know,
Wow.
Trep Tech kind of included in under that umbrella. Like it's part of our original like our show roster, right? And so this is new to us. But the one thing that I found out is it does do exactly what it needs to. No matter how big or small the show is, it generates customers. So for us, like Rob interviewed, I think we're at 39 people aired, and I think he's got like something like 50 something episodes in the can, 60 episodes in the can. Like I'm buying his back catalog for years at this point.
He is killing it.
He's amazing. He's the like without a doubt the most consistent and most showboating and just incredible host I've ever worked with. Like his professionalism is unreal.
Wait a minute.
He
What?
yeah. You heard me.
He's the most. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
He's
not me.
No,
Not
not
me.
yet. No, not yet.
But different approaches.
A few more weeks of this batch recording, and we'll see. We'll see.
That's okay.
So
You're gloating on my toolkit, so I'm happy about that.
absolutely. I'm actually gonna sell it to Rob. So so what kind of I'm enjoying about this whole thing is like Rob did 30 episodes, but he's got like I don't know how many names in his Rolodex of guests, right, that he's had. So I shot a message to Rob and I said, hey Rob, the show's not huge yet, so we're not getting a lot of listeners interested in the show or interested in our services. But could you do me a favor and send out an email to all the guests? They all have podcasts. That's why they're on our show. And just ask them if there's anything they need help with this year.
Yep. I
The
saw that thread.
The replies are rolling in.
Exactly.
Right. And so
that's the benefit of having guests is that they help push it to their people.
But what's nice
whether
is
it be your services and the episode. So
well, that's beautiful. And what I loved is the guests are our customers.
Yes.
The guests became our customers. So we didn't even take that step further and try to make our listeners the customers. We made our guests the customers.
Yeah.
So like we took it a step differently, right? And so like there's a lot of different ways you can be looking at a podcast because is that not marketing our services using our podcast, right? We leveraged it. We leveraged our list that we got from having a podcast. So you're only really limited by how creative you can look at, okay, who is my podcast putting me in touch with? How can I utilize these connections to either make more connections or generate revenue, right? And
that's the connections is the biggest thing to me.
It is.
The connections. Who will it connect me to? How will it, because connections to me is growth. When you're able to connect with other people and learn from different people and continuously learning, that's growth. And that is huge to me.
Beautiful. Well, it is. And because like you don't know, the next person you connect with might connect you to the biggest person you've ever been connected to, or it might connect you to the story that changes your life, or the customer that puts down the money to pay your mortgage, or like you have no idea how the map gets drawn, right? It's like basically like a nervous system. Every single person you meet opens up access to an entirely different set of people. So like it's so important to get out there and get visible. And, you know, even if you're doing it one person at a time, like I do, where I build relationships super slowly and nurture them super slowly, they tend to last a long time, you know? Or if you're someone who likes to spray and pray and meet a bunch of people all at once, but they're more surface level interactions, well, then you have a lot of people you can choose from to decide, okay, who do I want to deepen connections with, right? Like there's no wrong strategy. Like you said, it's whatever works for you. But the biggest objective here is should be connecting with people in a meaningful way.
I freaking love podcasting. This
Right.
is the beauty of podcasting, all of this.
Yeah, it is. And so I've got a kind of an idea is why don't we talk about some of our favorite marketing tactics? Like what are some things that we do that we've seen make a big difference? And I've got a super, super simple one that every single person who has a podcast can do like right now, and it will
Go
change
for
their
it.
trajectory. On your show, before you let people leave or right at the beginning, whenever, but I like to make it like one of the last things people listen to is you should create a call to action. It doesn't have to be a link. It doesn't have to be something to buy. It doesn't have to be, although if you have all those things, wonderful. If you want to go back to the last episode, there's literally an hour long, 45-minute long commercial for the success kit that you can guarantee that it has a CTA in it. But what I've done is at the end of that, I kind of snuck in another CTA if you listen, and you can go back and check. And that's if you know anyone who would benefit from this episode, if you know anyone who needs to hear this message, if you know anyone who could utilize this episode, if you know anyone who needs these resources, please tell them about the podcast. By
Ah,
saying that, it automatically creates a psychological like a moment in a person's psyche where they go, who needs this?
yeah, yeah.
And
You're telling all of our secrets.
if a person pops up that who needs this, well, then they're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna send this along. And the conversion percentage probably isn't great, I'll be honest with you. But if you say that enough, like Rose on the Podcast Bay team, we have a show that we produce in the masculinity space. And she's handing that thing out like popcorn at the movies to the men in her life. She's just like, you need an episode, and you need an episode, and you need an episode. And it's just so, and I attribute that to the host, Dave is the host, and he tells people like, if you know someone,
Dave, love you,
yeah,
Dave.
Dave's incredible. And he says like in his show, if you know somebody who needs this message, if you know somebody who could benefit from having a group of guys to hold him account, and he has this thing that comes off so natural when he says it, but it is CTA basically telling people like, look, this stuff only works if the person who needs it hears it. Give it to them.
And
Right.
I'm going to drop the name, the Unbreakable Man podcast.
Incredible
And
show.
that is the show that me and Scott launched together. And I mean, Dave is
helped.
amazing.
Dave helped.
Yep. The hosts, of course.
Dave was there.
Dave is amazing. Definitely check out the Unbreakable Man.
Link is in the description.
Yes, the whole movement that he's doing. It's amazing. I look at it. His target market is men, of course, and I look at the event photos and everything, and I'm like, are girls allowed?
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. Like his videos, his marketing, like kudos to you and your team too. All of the visuals you guys created for him, they look incredible. Like I am absolutely like so impressed with the way his show presents online. Like it looks and sounds so tight. And I'm
Yes,
a
he came
huge
hard. He came out the gate hard.
yeah, absolutely. Like I can't say enough good stuff about that show. But from the CTA perspective, like he flat out says, like, if you know someone who needs this, give it to them. And it seems so simple, but what that has done to his growth is I wish we could break down the metric to see like before you started saying it, after you started saying it, because it creates this beautiful psychological moment where people are like, I know someone who could use this, and they do hand it off. So that would be my first tactic. Super simple, and it takes 2 minutes on the mic. So if you know someone who needs a show about masculinity and is a man and he's got a lot going on in his life as far as like, marriage, kids, bills, this, that, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on him, try him out with the Unbreakable Man podcast. Take a look in the description below to check it out because it's an awesome show. And if you just need an example of how to put together some solid CTAs as a podcaster listening to this or someone who wants a podcast, go check it out because Dave is really good at putting strong calls to action in his stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Do you have any marketing tactics you like? Well, first of all, like the post you made where you made people like A, B, and C it. That was an incredible tactic. I've got to again allude to that because that's great. But do you have any other tactics you like to employ?
I would probably say going back to automating like the distribution. So like website, automating the RSS feed where it goes to the website, goes to the email, it goes to social media like Facebook, it goes to YouTube. So a video is created in YouTube. That is one of my favorite things is how to like push a button, automate it, and it goes out to different platforms because again, that goes back to social media for me, but it's also email and website. So, and then the SEO with the podcast, so the show notes. And that's something else that I love. And then it also helps us think about what to give the audience, what the audience needs, what products to build and everything. I guess that's more on our ROI and sales. I think social media, I keep going back to social media.
That's fine. That's fine. Like that's and social media is a good one because it does have a lot of reach. It's instantaneous, and there's a lot there that people can interact with. And because you're more conversational in your style, like you like to sit there in the comments and have conversations with people, you know,
Yes,
which
yes.
every single one of those touch points could be an episode, you know.
And that's something I want to offer for Trip Tech is where people can leave us voice messages asking different questions and then we answer them live on air or answer them in one of our recorded episodes because I love that feedback, that conversation. That is so important. And to me, social media is that conversation. With email, with SEO, that's just, how you rank and stuff. But posting on Facebook and Instagram and getting that feedback, it just lets me know what's the word I'm looking for? It confirms whatever thoughts are in my head and stuff. And yeah, that's my favorite.
Well, that's good. That's
And
good.
to
Now,
me it's all connected because social media, the calls to action link back to your website, your blog, a specific episode, all that good stuff. So to me, it's all connected.
so what I love about your situation is you can type in like, what are some struggles you've had with systems into your Facebook, or what is a system you use and you like? And people will go into the comments and talk. And
Yeah.
every single one of those comments, if you have like, let's say episode 1 was setting up your systems, and episode 2 was why you use PayPal, and episode 3 was PayPal and Stripe, and episode 4 was integrating with Zapier, and episode 5 was, let's say you were going that technical.
Thank you. You're giving me ideas.
Every single person who mentions one of those things, that could be an opportunity to share an episode. Now, imagine going down a comment thread and being able to share like 30 episodes with different people.
Exactly.
The power of that
Exactly.
conversation, right? The marketing potential. But one thing I'm going to say is that I hate seeing this. Okay. People use social media wrong. They use it like a billboard,
Yeah.
and it's not supposed to be. So they'll put out a post and it just simply says, Scott and Airial did a podcast episode this week. Go check it out. And it's our artwork. Or
Um,
Scott
wait,
and Airial did a podcast about podcasting. Go check it out.
wait. So am I guilty of that on the last post I made?
100%. 100%.
Well,
100%.
I said, hey, we had a chance to work together, and this is Scott's feedback of the experience.
Better, but not great. And the reason why I say it's not great
I
is
win
because
some, I lose some.
you could have gone in there and said, have you ever had someone gush about your work like this? Or what was the best testimonial you've ever had? And still share the image because people will get context, but then people are going to come in with their own personal stories. And like, I like to use this in terms of like, let's say I am, well, okay, we'll use the podcasting example. Instead of saying like Airial and Scott did a podcast about podcasting, we could turn that into 2 separate posts. One, what was the biggest accomplishment? If you have a podcast, or do you have a podcast? What was your biggest accomplishment so far?
Ooh.
People will
For
come in and they'll
somebody who
start.
doesn't really for somebody who doesn't really post, you are being very critical, but these are some good ideas. So those who are listening, if you're following me on Facebook or Scott, because hopefully he'll share it, see how these posts work out because I'm making
Shit.
notes. I'm taking
Shit.
notes.
You know what? Fine. You absolutely deserve every breath of that one because I am highly critical of everything I don't do.
Right.
Absolutely. You got me. You got me. That is one of my defining character traits is I'm highly judgmental and analytical and yeah, critical. But yeah,
Not
so
that you helped create the post or anything. Not that you told me in private, hey, Ariel, change this post to this to be better. No, you have to blast me out over the air. But okay.
this is so much
Like I
better.
said, win some, lose some.
I personally think this is so much better because you got to clap back and now it's content. And
Yes.
so, yeah. And so like when I look at your posts, they're nearly perfect, but what I find is missing, they look great, but there's just that prompt to get someone to weigh in sometimes. When you're not trying to promote an episode, you're great at the prompts. But when you're in the
Yeah.
when you're specific in the episodes, it's a lot of just like, hey, look what we did, is what it feels like, which some people will go, oh, I'm gonna pretend to care. But for the most part, people only care when you're talking about them.
Yeah.
They don't care when you're talking about you. So if you want to subvert that, I would say, what were your biggest podcasting accomplishments so far? What that's going to do is that's going to pop up all these people who said like, oh, I haven't accomplished much yet. I've got X amount of listeners. I've got X amount of listeners. We got a sponsor. We got this. We got that. We can go through and thank you for your input. Congratulations. Oh, a sponsor? That's great. Are you allowed to talk about the details? What did you make? How would it go?
Or
You
hey,
know,
I need help with this because it's
nah,
not going as great as I
right.
thought it would.
But then you get to the bottom and you go, podcast success kit episode. Hey, no matter how much success you've had so far, there's always a little, some areas you can shore up. If you need some help, check this out. Right. Or
How
you
are
could go
you
to,
telling all of our secrets on air?
because you need to know this one.
True.
And then, like, so the other thing I would do is I would ask again, because the podcast success kit serves two people, if I'm not mistaken, people who have it want to do better, people don't have it yet. If you started, do you want to start a podcast? If you did, what would it be about? And then you got all those people going, I could probably start one, blah, 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 blah. And they'll go down and they'll have all their ideas. And you can go in and again, shoot back and forth, get all of the stuff you love to do, which is the conversing and the getting to know people and the deepening the connection, deepening the connections. And then we get to the bottom, we do the part I like to do where you convert. I'm not much for conversing. I'm more for converting. So you put the thing on the bottom. Here's the podcast success kit to help you plan, put it together, and launch. Off you go. And so those two questions created algorithmically sound opportunities for you to post an episode or, for to single certain people out and go like, I have a product for you if you're interested in looking at it. So that's the only thing I would say on social media is you should ask more questions and then use the comment thread to your advantage. Because a lot of people, they broadcast out their episodes and they're trying to find new groups to do that in, but the strategy is flawed right from the action. It doesn't matter what group or where you do it. It's just not going to work anywhere.
Yeah, I'm just quiet because, I'm feeling that ouch. Like I had this amazing post and then the next post was like, eh.
Yeah. And exactly. Go with the bad, go with the bad. You take some, you win some, you lose some. And I look at those posts and I go, oh, that only got like 2 likes and 4 comments. How could I have done that differently to
Yeah.
engage more commentary?
And that's learning. It's
Exactly.
learning and it's finding your sweet spot.
See, I don't like people, which is why social media is not necessarily my bag. Like, I shouldn't say that. I love individual people. I don't like people at scale.
Gotcha.
I don't like the way mass behavior tends to do things. A lot of people online, they behave ways that they wouldn't behave individually, which is why I personally love to do all my marketing in your inbox, either your DMs or, on social media. As far as like Instagram stories, I'll post something, people react. I talk to them. It's more intimate. I tend not to go into these big Facebook-esque, like, check this shit out, and I want 200 people to talk to me. Because like that's a nightmare for me. That's terrifying for me because you know how out of hand 200 people in a comment thread can get. You know, that can turn to politics or religion or woe is me. I tried to launch a podcast and like there's a lot that can happen in those moments that you kind of have to navigate. And
You
me
know, I didn't have
personally,
that. I didn't have
no.
that problem on this one, on the good one.
Yeah, your marketing's fun though. That's the thing is you come in with like fun. So for some podcasts, that could generate a lot of heat if your podcast is a little more heated. But at the same time, it's not
Mm.
necessarily a bad thing. It's just going to be a whole lot of conversation you're going to have to tactfully navigate. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
email. You said you like email. What do you do for that? Do you blast an email out every time you put a show out or
Well, they get updates, and I haven't set it up yet for the Trip Tech
okay.
podcast, but
Okay.
of course I will. And
Yeah.
it'll probably be set up by the time this episode airs.
Always.
Um but yeah, putting out like, hey, this is the latest episode, check it out. Of course, I want to do something. I don't want to just send out an email with the RSS feed saying, hey, this is the next show or this is the latest episode. I want to do something around that. So like that touchy-feely conversing thing that facilitates feedback and everything. So I'm still bubbling in my head how I want to do that. Of course it's going to say, hey, here's the latest episode, but putting questions around it so we get that feedback. It's so important to me with this podcast
Yeah.
because that lets me know what people need and how I can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that because again, when you open the floor for engagement instead of like the attention, I guess you're not necessarily looking for attention now. You're looking for engagement. And
Yeah,
it's a very different thing. Like attention is look at me. Engagement is I want to look at you.
exactly.
And once you open the door for engagement, I find you get way more attention than I akin it to the difference of like, when my daughter does something super kind for her brother versus when she just decides to yell and scream and run around the house because I'm holding her brother, you
Oh,
know, on one side is respect and on the other side is attention. And
yeah.
I find that the more my daughter tries to get attention and vies away from being respected, the attention's not good. But the more she tries to get respect, the more attention she gets by default, and it's good attention. So,
Yes.
for me, I've always toed that line of like, I could go out and play the numbers game and make 200 posts a day on 400 social media, but I couldn't respect that. I couldn't respect me just being noisy out there,
That
you
doesn't
know?
feel authentic to me.
No, especially
I
not for me.
just
Could you
mm-mm.
imagine me doing that, Ariel? Me
Oh
of all
no.
people.
I'd
No.
be like, what is wrong, Scott? What are you doing?
Could you imagine me Gary Ving out there sitting in my car, talking to the camera in my office, like that's just not me, right? So like
Yeah,
I've always kind of been like, do I respect myself in these efforts? Am I respecting my audience in these efforts? Because they don't want to get shouted at all day long either, right? And so
exactly.
like, yeah, and so like finding that way of like you said, if you send an email going like, what would you do differently? And that was the topic line. What would you do differently? I want to know what that email is about.
Ooh, yes.
And then let's say it was
Takes
like,
notes.
yeah, and let's say then the next subject in the email is, hey, we launched a podcast success kit recently, and some of the feedback we got from people who had already started a podcast was that when they went back to module one, they learned things they would have done differently.
Mm,
Here are some of those things. I wish I had an offer in place. I wish I had an objective. I wish, share examples and then say, do you have anything you would have done differently? Or do you even have your show yet? If so, hit reply. But I would also welcome you to check the link to the podcast success kit and see if this ticks all the boxes for you, whatever, however you want to word your CTA. But that email is going to be a million times more effective than podcast success kit question mark in the subject line. And then, hey, we had an episode of right? Like it's so different. The nuance is so different, but like, what would you have done differently makes you like, I sit there and I go, with what exactly?
I don't know if I could do that. I guess my fear is I'm being transparent right now. I don't think I
Yeah.
could do that for every episode.
You can't. It's impossible.
And that's what scares me because I'm like, like with the post, you have a great one, and then it's like the other one is like, yeah. And I would want to create that same feel for every episode and every email.
So this bleeds me into episode or to a tactic that I love that a lot of people don't realize is that podcasts are evergreen, which
Yes,
means
I love that too.
which means let's say this week you market episode 6 and your email was not great, not received well, not a lot of people clicked in. 3 or 4 weeks from now, episode 6 is going to be forgotten about. It's going to be brand new again. Try again. Different email,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing is people are like, oh, I need more listeners on my show. I need to put out more episodes. No, promote your back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
On the off weeks where you're not promoting something, or if you're doing weekly and on the off days, like maybe every Wednesday, you have like a throwback Thursday, even where you go back to episode 1 or 2 or 3. Because let's face it, by the time you and I get to episode 8 of this show or episode 9, I think wherever we are right now, the people who are listening to this episode today are not, some of them are, nice to have you here, caught us on episode 1. Some of them, most of them not. So wouldn't it be nice if the people who just caught us today got an email next week saying, hey, in case you're new, let's go back to episode 1. Come with us from the beginning.
Love it. And I
Right?
noticed something else that you do, speaking of that, is that you'll reference past episodes
Oh,
whenever we
yeah.
hit record.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you're a little slick with it, but I noticed
Yeah.
that.
That's the thing is none of my marketing is obvious. I don't know if you've ever detected that. I am marketing all the fucking time. I never stop. None of it's obvious. None of it's obvious. It's
But I
all
mean,
so subtle. It's not even like I don't even give you a link to click. If you care enough, you'll go find it.
right.
Right.
So I think what I would love to do is probably do like a private podcast where we break down actual tactics and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you want
We'll do a
access to
master
that,
class. Let's do a master class inside the podcast success kit.
yes, even better, even better. So
Yeah.
the behind the scenes, and and you see actual numbers, and you see how things go for the little people, because everybody is not like, oh, let me hit new and noteworthy, let me reach millions of people. I mean, you want to reach millions of people, but it's a different mindset than some of the larger influencers.
That, and I will say, like, I would rather learn with a small audience and then reach millions when I'm good at it.
Yes.
Then reach millions right away and screw up or pod fade or realize this isn't what I want to do.
Exactly.
So, there is that too. But yeah, I do reference past episodes because that is, again, like being able to build your back catalog is a great way to not do any extra work, but still get that extra listener. I don't have to go out and then reproduce a new episode. I can just, how many do we have now? Like 9? We can just share one of those, and
Exactly.
and they all, like, if I share episode 1, I'm selling your tech concierge service. If I show episode 2, we're selling podcast bay. If I share episode 3, we're selling your systems and tech concierge service. If I share episode 4, we're selling even more of your stuff. 5 and 6 and 7, we're sharing all podcasting stuff. Every single episode we share back then has a CTA attached to it because we did that on purpose. So it's all sales activities too. Everything we do at this point, no matter what we share from this back catalog, has a sales purpose, a content purpose, and an education purpose behind it. So every single episode is as valuable as the new ones.
Exactly. And visibility and establishing our expertise.
Yeah.
Those are big ones.
Absolutely. Right. So, and then again, like, you take advantage of seasonal content. It is Black History Month as we record this right now, and Ariel happens to be Black. That's that's relevant to us. If I put this out alone, it would be really weird for me to sit down and rap about Black History Month by myself.
On the Trip Tech 1.0, we did the color of a business. That
Yeah,
episode was fun.
it was fun. It was fun, and it was cool because we debunked racism versus classism on that one.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and that was interesting because it turns out like people don't realize that white boys get treated pretty poor too. you know, but it was kind of funny just sitting down and ordinarily if I were to do a show by myself, I wouldn't be able to tap into that piece of historical value, not to the extent I can with you, right?
Yeah,
If we want to sit down and we want to talk about fatherhood and how that goes into business, that's not something you can rap about by yourself.
exactly. Oh, that sounds like a good June episode.
Shit, wouldn't it be though? You guys
I
want
don't
to
know
hear
if
about stress?
I don't know if Father's Day is the same time frame or if you have it in Canada, but yeah, in June for the
Yeah.
US,
Yeah, it's
Father's
there for us
Day.
too. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be fun
And
to do.
a big one for me is mental health. Mental health as an entrepreneur. Yeah,
Yeah, and again, that's May, if I'm not mistaken. And
it
yeah, like
is.
yeah, there's so many things you can do with, seasonal like holidays and just you can take advantage of that and use that to bolster your numbers too. Mind you, a lot of people are employing that strategy, so you definitely want to be tactful and creative with it. But yeah, so that's something you can do, referencing old stuff, making sure you tell people, hey, I want you to put this in the hands of someone who who this would work for, being able to share on social media and ask questions, having engagement in your taglines and in your emails that makes people think like, oh, that's a question I want to answer. So like you can kind of see there's a general theme of like taking an actual interest in someone else's needs happening across the board here. But one thing I'll say is my absolute favorite strategy that we have not mentioned yet, and that is appearing on other podcasts.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
If I type in Airial Renal in Google right now, I will find podcasts that you appeared on as a guest before I even find your own, I bet.
Yes,
And
yes.
if you appear if you appear on enough of these podcasts, the Google SEO attached to your name becomes absolutely unmatchable.
And that was strategic. And then I would repurpose them onto the Veteran Woman podcast. I don't know if you
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah.
They were bonus episodes. So any podcast that I appeared on, I got permission to add it to the Veteran Woman podcast. So it reiterates that, and then it's more content.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. It lends more to the Google juice. Like I'm finding shows like I think I appeared on a show called Natural Born Coaches when I first got it. When I
oh,
first like,
Mark.
yeah, Mark Mawhinney, like way back in the day when I first got into like podcasting. I started as a podcast coach, and I literally just called myself Scott the Podcast Coach, and it was so cringy. Um, and yeah, like that episode is still on the air. It was back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, and you can still find it just by Googling my name.
Yeah.
And so not only
Google
is it,
me, baby.
yeah, and so not only are you getting SEO, but you're getting longevity. 2015, are you kidding me? People are still coming from the Mawhinnies to my business. This has been a relationship ongoing since 2015. You know, Mark gets coaches in his business and they want to start shows. They go to Matt. Matt is an incredible podcast production guy for the business Pod Assist. He's where I got my very first internship. He taught me like a lot of really cool
Mm,
stuff. And if he's full, if he's at capacity, I'm the next name in the Rolodex.
wow.
And that was
You
something
know
I did in
what?
2015 now. Like keep that in mind, right? So that's an incredible thing where if you just get onto other people's shows, the relationships that you form in these places can be absolutely life-changing. And even if not, the SEO is there forever. So conduct really good interviews and get them out there.
Like Scott said, we are recording this episode during Black History Month. And something you said reminded me of this. I remember I was doing a speaking engagement, and, I understand I'm Black. And if I speak to a crowd that is not the same as me, that doesn't look the same, that sometimes they may be skeptical. And I remember I had this one speaking engagement, and it was talking about the veteran woman. It was in that realm and that mission. And it was a guy that was sitting next to me, Caucasian. And like as I'm talking, he's busy Googling me. And then yeah, like he was like, as if he was like, okay, I don't believe her, let me check her out or whatever. And then like his jaw dropped. He was like, oh my gosh, this website is beautiful. Oh, you're here, you're there. I was like, yeah. So I used to tell people, Google me,
Yeah.
and that and being on other people's podcasts. I
A white
mean,
guy, it would be a white guy fucking Googling you too. We're like that. I don't know why. We're like,
yes.
oh yeah, oh, yeah, we'll fucking see. Oh, okay. Okay. No, you're good. You're good. Fucking don't like this social media post though. Fix it.
But I mean, it establishes that credibility and it
100%.
makes, that expertise and everything. And yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. And I have a feeling color has to do with that. And it is what it is.
People Google
So
me.
get out
People think I'm
there.
full of shit. People think I'm full of shit. People Google me. I'm tattooed. I drive a dilapidated car that I love to death. Like I don't look any part of what I am. And aside from when I dress up for work, that's when I'm suited, booted, and beautiful. But outside of that, like I look very normal and people don't believe it. And so they'll
Yep.
Google me too. And then they figure out like, holy shit, okay, this guy knows things, valuable things. And by then it's too late because fuck you. But no, like I feel you. Like having that podcast there instantly builds your credibility. And then getting on other people's podcasts builds your credibility with their audiences too, but also makes you way more Googleable. So it's a very like it's a two
Googleable.
Googleable. So it's a two-tiered strategy where you're getting your Google SEO out there, but you're also building credibility with other people's networks. And if you get
Yeah.
them on your show, if you have an opportunity to do that, then you're creating cross promotion and that becomes work you don't have to do either. And all of these little things you do, hey guys, give this to somebody. Email's gone out yesterday. Ask the social media question. Going to get on a podcast next week. Then I'm going to, reference a past episode in another email. And I'm going to ask another question next week about, a past episode. Every little thing you do puts a brick in the eventual marketing masterpiece you're building. It takes consistency and it takes doing like, I would say a different thing every day. You don't want to sit there and do 6 weeks of social media straight. It'll get boring.
True.
Everyone will get bored of it. It's good to be everywhere. But for me, like I like to, today I'm recording. I'm recording content. Guess what I'm not doing today? Any other marketing. Tomorrow, seriously, I'm going to get on a sales activity next. I'm going to get on client delivery next. I'm not doing any other marketing. Tomorrow, I'm going to throw some social media posts out for my team shows. So TrepTech's going to be on there. If you,
What?
yeah, TrepTech's going to be on there. I'm going to schedule out some stuff for next week for the Facebook page, and I'm going to basically finesse the fuck out of y'all and show you how to do posts. Since you now, since you now
Do
called
it
me
so I can
out,
share it. Do it right so I can share it.
since you now called me out, I'm gonna have to finesse the shit out of all of you. Hey, don't wake the beast, don't poke the bear. So now that you've told me that I'm highly critical over things I don't do, I'm gonna go do it. So and that's beautiful. The accountability is nice. So yeah, I'll throw out some social media posts, but guess what I'm not doing and after that? Any other marketing. Saturday, I might send it because Saturday's a family day, but I'm forever on the job. I might send someone internally on my team, hey guys, there's a really good episode of Unbreakable Man. If anyone's struggling with
Mm,
XYZ, you might want to go listen to it. Or like
mm.
I'll send one to my stepdad because he's a veteran and he likes that kind of stuff. And I'll be like, hey dude, if just listen to a really cool thing, don't know what you're going through, but here, you know? Or if there's a specific sales podcast for Jess, like I always try to find, because writing you a message and saying, hey Airial, check out this really cool one on buyer types
Yeah.
or on licensing. It takes me 15 seconds, grab the link, share it with you, send it to you, and then that technically counts as marketing for one of the shows I represent, right? So like it's doesn't have to be hard, but I like to do one different thing every day. And then
I love that.
when I go through everything I know, I start back at the beginning. I'll sit down and write 20 emails to go out over the next 20 days. And then and it does that, and it keeps things fresh for me. I'm not sitting there day in and day out obsessing over my next TikTok video.
So that
you know
means have fun with it.
yeah, absolutely.
See, goes back to have fun.
Yeah, and you don't have to be everywhere. Be the few places you like, but do it consistently.
And if you want to be everywhere, you can automate that shit.
Hire Ariel. If you want to be everywhere, hire Ariel, because she can be everywhere while only showing up in one place to do it.
From my bed. People like, oh my God, you're I just know how to automate some stuff.
I miss my bed. You make it sound so appealing.
I love how we're talking about different marketing tactics, but they're not like what you would find in course material, or like if you Google it, some of the stuff people touch on, but I love that we're touching on it in a different way.
These are
So,
they're nuanced things. They're tiny things that you could easily
yes,
do, right? They're not these big campaigns that you set up. They're not complicated. Tiny little
yes.
nuances that will actually add value and juice and intrigue to your marketing. Like, have you ever, like, obviously we've both dated. I hated it, but
Mm,
what's like with dating, you're supposed to what? Be a little mysterious, not say too much about yourself, be really interested in the other person,
that's
find
where I
out
failed at dating.
find find out what you can about the other person, and then see how you would add value to their situation. Sales is the exact same
Yes.
thing. Marketing is the same thing. Okay. Like if you approach marketing like you approach dating, it's nuanced, it's fun, it's happy, it's trying to find out as much about your audience as possible and then giving them everything they say they want.
So this reminds me of something. To you, what's the difference between marketing and promoting?
Marketing is the overarching
Not
activity.
okay, listen, I don't want a Jess Lorma answer because I know there's technicalities, between sales, marketing, and promoting.
Yeah.
Just how do you personally look at it?
Marketing for me is
And
the
no,
overarch.
hold on. Just don't be mad at me for saying that because you are fabulous at what you do.
Well, no,
We're
I
just
get
taking a
it.
different approach.
I get it. I get it. Because like Jess has very deeply ingrained herself into the way I do everything, which I fucking love because it's effective. So for me, marketing is the overarching activity. Promotion is the piece of what you're doing. So I have a podcast that I need to market. Okay. I need to bring my podcast to market. I need to put my podcast out there in the market. What do I do? Well, now I have to promote it by using different strategies, different little pieces of things that I do. So that social media post is a piece of promotion. That podcast interview is a piece of promotion. That question I asked is a piece of promotion. That episode I shared with the CTA on it is a piece of promotion. And all of those little pieces of promotion build into the marketing efforts of what you're doing.
Love it. Love it. Now, how does sales differ? Because
So
to me, it overlaps
it
sales and
does.
marketing.
It does. Like I've always explained it as it's a hug. Okay. So marketing is meant to get you seen, known, loved, and trusted.
Beautiful.
Marketing is there to get you seen, known, loved, trusted. Marketing is all about visibility and perception. Sales is when that person finally needs you to solve their problem. And so your marketing gives your sales a great big hug and goes, I've done all I can with this person. They're yours now. And then the sales department, because we do this well. Rob is my marketer. Jesse's my marketer. I am the salesperson. So they give me a person who they've nurtured, who knows them, who likes them, who trusts them. And by default, trust Podcast Bay because they've heard my product from them.
That's why I love marketing so much.
Yeah. So when they hand me the person, I go, hey, so you want to show like Rob's, or hey, so you want to show like Jesse's? What does that look like to you?
And I noticed on our calls with Dave, since we've dropped his name,
Yeah.
how I would be like the warm one, like ask whatever questions you need to ask. I'm like that warm one. And you were like sales, you were like the stats, the past show successes, the ROI. You were like, you came in hard and very professional. But I was like that one that was like, do you have any questions? And this
Yeah.
is the ROI is this, you come in like specific. And I'm like, so this means,
Yeah.
I took like a softer approach, and I really noticed that. And so how you're saying it, I was marketing you and you were selling, and it was in
You
the same conversation.
And that's it. Like, and I'll be honest with you, I've never done that in the same conversation before. That was the first time in my life that I had the person marketing me there as an ear on my sales call. So
Wow.
typically when someone comes to me, they're marketed already because they came from my funnel, not yours. Right. And so in this case, when they're coming from your funnel, they're not necessarily marketed on me yet. They're marketed on you.
Yeah.
So you brought Dave over to a call with me and we chatted with him. And yeah, my job then becomes sell what we do, sell what we can help him do, sell his reputation, sell his audio quality, sell his CTAs, sell his audience growth, sell everything, sell the foundational piece, the product that we can give him that then he can take and show with the world and use to accomplish a mission. We're going to build the chariot. He can ride it where the fuck he wants. That's my job, is to sell that chariot. But
So just
you were sitting there going, that motherfucker's the best chariot builder in the land.
yes. Like the amen corner.
Yeah. You were like, that guy though, you can get chariots elsewhere. It's not going to be that fucking chariot. And he's going to tell you how to ride it after too. Right. Like that's the thing. Is so like it was really interesting to have the marketing element right there on my shoulder while I was having that call, because sometimes the handoff between marketing and sales isn't smooth. Sometimes there's things that get lost there. So the more you can build know, like, and trust. And like, let's say I'm a podcast and my podcast is about sneakers, and we're talking about sneakers. And a link in my description is to go to my store where I get affiliate commission on sneakers. Well, my job is to make these sneakers sound as incredible, as trustworthy, and as loved as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then when whoever in my audience is ready for a new pair of sneakers, they're going to click my link. If I
Yeah.
told you how much I loved my Rodney Mullen skate shoes back when I was a kid, or my Rowleys, my red Rowleys with the stripe on the side, and I just fucking love them and they were my favorite shoe ever, and they don't make them anymore. And if they do, they're probably limited edition and whatever. And they were just the best shoe on earth. And now all of a sudden, the company that made them is releasing like a limited edition set of Rowleys that is incredible. I'm so glad these are back available. I want to get myself a pair. If you want a pair too, the link is in the description. You should definitely own a pair of Rowleys. They're my favorite fucking skate shoe ever. Well, now you're clicking to get your Rowleys in the link. And if you love me enough, you're buying me a pair too. Do you
Don't
see
get
how
too carried away with it.
but do you see how that works? Like I've literally
Yes.
I've had a lady, I gave her boyfriend guitar lessons when we were younger, and I gushed about this guitar I wanted so bad. And 2 years later, that guitar showed up in the mail for me from her.
Wow. Reciprocity.
Because when you build that love, when you build that emotional connection, when you build that trust with people, when you provide a good service, and then you let it out that you love something so much, they're going to want it for themselves. She bought one for her boyfriend, and then years later she bought one for me too.
Amazing.
And I just, like, to this day, it's one of my favorite stories about like very unexpected repercussions of a very good sales journey. Because she paid for the lesson, she bought the guy the guitar, and then years upon years later, she was still so grateful and still so emotionally connected to that instance that she bought me a guitar too. And I'm not talking a cheap guitar. Like these things come with a heavy price tag. So like she loved that experience so much that she invested again long after it was done. Right. And so that's kind of a point of a podcast, is it gives you the opportunity to market so well and build so much love and trust and investment and faith and belief in the things that you say, so long as you're saying them and conducting yourself in a believable, faithful, and trustworthy manner.
And with
Um,
integrity.
and with integrity and authentically and being genuine, and with coming from the right place, you can convert people quite easily into a sales position, and it is as easy as having a call to action and a link in your show notes that leads to a page for them to click buy.
Yep.
Like I have literally listened to an episode, clicked the link and went, shut up and give me, shut up and take my money. Like I want this,
Yes, exactly.
and full disclosure, I'm looking at Dave's membership right now. I listen to his show weekly. Like it's our job to produce his show. And I've heard his CTA so much. I'm sitting here going, I need this in my life. I want this. This is wearing me down.
And meanwhile, I'm over there like, do you allow girls?
Yeah, no, it's the Guy Scouts. It's Guy Scouts. It's a boys only club. But no, like for real though, like that he does such a strong job at communicating the transformations of his people. The testimonial episodes that he has are incredible because they reinforce his services really well. The coaching that he does, the guests he gets on, his CTAs usually involve, like, he just put out this big thing about how he's dealing with a mold issue, and how even though it's completely like he's got to renovate his house top to bottom and he's had to live in Airbnbs for a month while launching a podcast and running a business and going through all that, his voice is right calm and cool the whole time he's talking
Yes.
about it. And I'm like, I want that collectedness. I want my whole life.
Yes.
I want my whole life to be a dumpster fire and you not see it on my face.
Because he
Right.
tells me that, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Like, I'm like worried, and he's just so calm, cool, collected.
Yeah.
But that's right
absolutely.
on brand for him too.
Yes. And that's my point. Is like, I look at that and I go, I want to be this man.
Yeah.
And then because he's built up that trust through all of his, and keep in mind, like I see the raw audio, so I know what he really sounds like. And I and that's what I mean. And for the record, it is like so close to what you hear. We don't have to polish him all that much. We do a good job. We finesse him. We finesse him. But what I'll say is that, like, even just if I listen to those episodes raw and I didn't know Dave and I didn't trust Dave, eventually I would grow to know, trust, and love Dave, and potentially, if his product was right for me, buy it. And that is the whole point of these things. So from a sales and conversion point of view, if you're looking to make money, that's how it works. Your podcast and all the efforts you do to promote your podcast, make it so that you never have to technically promote another sales page again. Send people to your content, let your content push your sales page.
And there we have it.
And if you want any
just
more marketing tips, get the fucking podcast success kit that is in the description below. Click the link, get it, because we're sharing all of our tips in there. We're even putting some of our master classes in there, how to plan, how to market, our favorite tactics, why you should use them. Like that is all going to be in the success kit. The success kit evolves as we do. You buy it once and it grows as we find things to throw in there. So it's definitely a worthwhile expense, because where the fuck are you going to get an evolving document, an evolving program for a one-time cost? So if that is something that you are interested in, click the link in the show notes below. Go check out the podcast success kit and learn how to do all this stuff in a more comprehensive manner than the way we've talked about it here. Airial, do you have anything you want to add before I sign us out?
I do not.
All right.
That was beautiful.
So if
that was a beautiful call to action. Hint, hint.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you know anyone who could use some of this stuff in their life, if you know someone who's got a podcast.
Seriously.
Well, yeah.
I'm just throwing that in there because it's like we spilled the tea on our behind the scenes tactics, but this is not a tactic for real.
It is a tactic.
Gosh. If you know somebody who needs this information, who wants to start a podcast, who wants to get their message out there, if it's you or someone else, please pass this on. And also give us feedback. Let us know what you think of the episode. Let us know some of your favorite marketing strategies. I'm not going to say tactics. I'll say strategies, even though there is a difference. Let us know what has been the best thing about podcasting for you.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Scott.
Awesome.
I'm
so
shutting up.
With that, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Trep Tech podcast. And we will see you here in 2 weeks if we don't see you in the success kit, checking out all the good resources. So take care, much love, and we'll see you next time.
Deuces.